Got to get it, Papa.
Okay, Pappy. Oh, well, good morning. And here I am in the upper reaches of Texas. Anyway, good thing I woke up because it's time to drink the newest flavor of Mountain Dew that I found. Yep, you can't get away from it. Yeah, you ever seen this kind before? It's got a big shark on it, shark attack going on, see that? And my voice is all messed up because I think I slept with my feet hanging out the window again. But that's okay. And see, I'm confused by this because it's got the shark attack, and then up here it has like snow-covered trees and stuff. But this is Mountain Dew Frostbite. Ooh. And since it's gonna be warm today, I thought I might need some Frostbite. Let me see if I can figure out what it tastes like. Oh, well, I don't know what it's gonna taste like. It's just Frostbite, naturally and artificially flavored dew. Well, I don't even see a note about juice, fruit juice. So I don't know, this might be antifreeze. I don't know what it is. It looks like Windex. But this comes from Walmart. Yeah, you looking for cool stuff, delicious drinks, you always got to go to Walmart. You end up having to get like a giant industrial size of most things, but this is one of those little skinny bottles. It's like that Maui, whatever that stuff is from DG, the DG, you know, not to be confused with the Walmart. Oh, here we go. I don't know if it was gonna open for a minute. Let's see. Ooh, smells like dew, kind of. I don't know, it doesn't smell too frosty, but we're gonna see. It'll wake you up, that's for sure. Well, I don't know what it's supposed to taste like. It tastes okay. Yeah, it tastes all right. Well, add that to my tally board of frosty deliciousness. And yeah, Frostbite. I don't know. I have no idea what it's supposed to taste like, but it's drinkable. It's very some things are just not even drinkable, but this one is. Frostbite is a good one. So we'll give it a thumbs up. And I need to get going, so put my Frostbite over there, and we'll see you on down the road there, partner. Well, here we are. We just made it to Oklahoma. And we're continuing our journey. I just had to hit the brakes for a minute to get a picture of that sign. And look at that. If you're gonna have a statue in front of your courthouse, it might as well be a statue like that. He's roping and riding and catching them cattle right here in front of the county courthouse in Jackson County, Oklahoma. That's right. You heard me. Look at that. Oh, the big mountains, yeah. Is there a Walmart coming up? Shut up, Pappy. Damn it. And here we are, going down Main Street. Looks a little different than some main streets, but that's okay. Because we're almost at our destination. When my phone starts screaming at me, that little bridge. When my phone starts screaming at me, that means I gotta turn. And I think it's somewhere right up here. Look at that. Established 1901. It's been here for a couple of years. See, this is downtown over here. And am I here? Tell me I'm here.
Destination is on your right. G.I. Joe Museum Little Free Library.
Look at that. And look at that.
Well, I'm Neil Vitale. I live in Lone Wolf, Oklahoma. Just moved here about 9 years ago. And had an interest in G.I. Joe when I was growing up, and had a couple of them, put them away for forever it seems, and then about 20 years ago, the person I gave the G.I. Joes to for good keeping said, "Hey, I got some G.I. Joes here, you want them back? We just cleaned out our attic." And I said, "Sure." So I got them back, and I said, "Well, this is kind of interesting." So then I started collecting. Fortunately, there was such a thing as eBay at that point, so I didn't have to go to a million garage sales or flea markets. And this started collecting, putting them together, buying, selling. Didn't have a lot of space. We lived back in Connecticut at that time. And now, since we moved to Oklahoma, we had 2 buildings here that we were able to purchase and fill up with G.I. Joes. There is an action figure museum in Oklahoma in Pauls Valley. And I went down there saying, oh, maybe they have G.I. Joes there. And the G.I. Joe section they had was admittedly pretty weak. They had mostly new G.I. Joes. And so I said, oh, here's an opportunity, and I am not aware of anyone actually having, now there are larger collections than this privately, but not any open to the public and that declares itself, a museum. And that's what we started about 6 or so years ago, maybe 7. And so what we have, we try to put all the G.I. Joes in some sort of chronological order, because it started in '64, but I also wanted people to look at Barbie and Ken, which predated G.I. Joe. And I always tell people that Barbie and Ken may have started first, but they only had 5 joints that moved, the shoulders, the hips, and the head. Then when Hasbro, I should say when Stan Weston and Dom Levine convinced Merrill Hasselbeck that they need to have a doll or an action figure, they came up with G.I. Joe, which has 21 movable joints, which allowed him. I always use this little display as a comparison between Ken in his leisure outfit and Barbie in the bathing suit with G.I. Joe and his incredibly accurate accessories and uniforms.
Yeah, it's funny. With Ken, if you wanted your G.I. Joe to like have vacation time or something, and you could find like a good shirt or something from Ken that would actually fit him, it's like then you could swap them out. But yeah, even the proportions and everything are so different. It's like a lot of you couldn't do that with much. A lot of that stuff just wouldn't fit on a GI Joe.
Yeah. So I always like to use this as a comparison. Even the boxes, you know, the GI Joe box was pretty plain, and when you bought a GI Joe, it didn't come dressed like you see there. It actually came like this, which was just with your basic Army, Navy, Marine, and Air Force, and there's also a marketing aspect to this. I mean, these sold for like $3, you know, back in '64 and '65. But what they did was then they sold these little deals, which were the uniforms, and they had uniforms and accessories and helmets and guns and all equipment, and those sold, you know, for about $1 each, I think. Let's see, I'll take. No, they were about $2 or $3 too, and so that's how they also made a lot of money to equip those GI Joes. And these guys up here, this one here are my original GI Joes from back in '64. I don't really know when I got them, so '64, 5 or 6. And the guy in the middle here is my brother-in-law's GI Joe.
There you go.
And unlike mine, it doesn't look like, and he doesn't remember ever playing with it. You know, he got it for Christmas and just put it away. So it's one of the few GI Joes in this store or in this museum that has all the original equipment that actually came with him. So that's why he's got a prominent spot there.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, he's even on a little pedestal.
He's a little higher than the others.
Yeah.
And so what we did was we looked at the '64 and 5 guys, and they were mostly basic Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine. But I try to collect a little bit of every outfit they had in the '60s. And then also in '65 they came out with the Foot Locker, which was really neat. The place to store your GI Joes with all equipment, and all the equipment they made. They used blueprints out of an armory in Rhode Island, so it's incredibly accurate when you look at the real equipment and compare it. And then of course in '65 they got the Jeep and this gun that shoots these incredible pieces of ammunition out, which a few years later they had to put a little block in the gun to keep it from shooting, because that came out pretty fast, and these missiles are pretty darn hard, so they could do some damage to kids. Of course that was before people really cared. But
that's back when toys were really fun, when you could hurt somebody.
I mean, those things shoot across, 10 feet across the room.
We had the bazooka, and they had the little kind of gold
they're over here.
bullets. The shells would fly pretty good. And we had other shooting toys.
And in '66 they made these Soldiers of the World, which I find, especially with the German and Japanese, I mean, if you think about it, that was 20 years after the war ended, and a lot of dads were in the service, and I don't know if you'd want your kid playing with a Japanese or a German, action figure, but they did, and they sold pretty well initially, and then they kind of faded out. Interestingly enough, they made a different head for G.I. Joe, and so they called it the Euro head, which was the German, the Russian, for some bizarre reason, the British guy also had that, and the Australian and the French. So they all had the same head, except for the Japanese. They had a special head.
And then that's one of the things with the even the original G.I. Joes is they had all the same face,
right,
but they had different hair colors.
Different hair color, different.
And that was kind of cool. Yeah. So it's like, when I was little, I was blonde-haired, so I had a blonde-haired guy. My brother had darker hair, so he got the brown-haired guy. Yeah. So
and they did the same for the Soldiers of the World. They gave him blonde hair, brown hair, black hair, and red hair. But they were. One interesting thing about the Soldiers of the World is they actually made in 1967 a talking Soldier of the World, and he's up there. But what they did...
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, and what they did was they did not... They made him talk English.
Oh.
And the talking Soldier of the World says G.I. Joe, U.S. Army.
Really?
That's what
Wow.
to do it.
I didn't know they even made that. That's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, the most popular GI Joe overall is the Green Beret. A
Yeah.
couple of things happened in '66. One is GI Joe was really popular. Two was that song, the Green Berets, came out. Three, John Wayne had a movie sometime in that period where he called the Green Beret. But it's just a cool outfit, and by far, I mean, it sells almost for the. I can't say for the most because there's others that sell for more, but I think it's universally thought of as the coolest GI Joe.
Yeah, here's a couple of the Crash Crew. Was that the Navy
That was
remember.
under the
or
I
Air
think it was
Force?
under the Air Force.
Air Force. That's
Yeah.
one of the ones, and that's a really unique suit that they and accessories and everything they came up
Yeah.
with. Yeah, these guys were Navy.
Yeah, the landing ship
And it was-
officers.
It was so. I always remember in the advertisements, like for the Air Force, there was a jet like in the background just for the picture.
Right.
And I was like, man, if they ever made that jet, I'd love to get that jet. Of course, to make it would have been so huge that.
Right. Well, they
yeah.
did make a jet.
Oh, they did?
Which we have in the other building, which we'll show you in a little
Oh,
bit.
okay.
But it's not to scale.
Oh, okay.
So over here, though, is the single most sought after GI Joe because it's a nurse, and they made the nurse in '67 to try to appeal to girls. But if you take a close look at the nurse, you know, she was no Barbie. I will tell you that. And the girls didn't want anything to do with it. Boys, of course, didn't want anything to do with it. So they made a whole bunch, didn't sell them.
Oh,
Now they're
God.
hard to find.
Wow.
So they, but that one, we find after 3 or 4 years of trying, we finally got one, and she's in pretty good shape here. She's got all her accessories, and then this, the other thing in '65 is that they made GI. I think I can't say Hasbro, you know, pioneered this, but they did make a black GI Joe, and I mean, you know, they kind of went halfway in that it's the Caucasian face with black plastic, but you know, they made that effort. And the problem, unfortunately, was that whatever they added to the plastic made it really brittle, and so they are definitely prone to breaking very easily. So again, that's why they are rare, because they didn't make as many, but the ones they did are breaking, unfortunately.
Yeah. And some things I've heard with the regular GI Joes is when you find them and they've been around, who knows how they've been stored and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
It's like their heads are often misshapen because originally they were kind of soft, and they would dry up, and they would. Some people had some. I remember somebody had one. They called them a pinhead.
There's these guys here. This is a GI Joe that was supposed to happen. They're supposed to have really squishy heads.
Yeah.
But they hardened, and some hardened so much that they became a pinhead.
Yeah, there's one.
Yeah, it just shrunk because there's a big post in there, and they just shrunk right over the post. So yeah, I kind of show those to show that there are different types of, and because the mix of the plastic and the way it not necessarily stored either. It's the plastic, not the condition.
It's just the material.
Yeah, and this is kind of just a classic hard head, they call it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a gummy head, and that's the pinhead.
So that's a looked at exclusive is the Pinhead GI Joe right here. You get to see him.
And that's a good pinhead. The problem with pinheads is the hats don't fit on them.
Yeah, nothing much will stay on their head unless it's got a strap.
So these guys here, '67 was an interesting year. GI Joe went crazy. They made motorcycle cops and race car drivers. They did the Rat Patrol, which they call the Desert Patrol.
Yeah.
And they got really fancy. They upgraded the MPs. In fact, they're so hard to find. A lot of those are reproductions because they didn't make that many of them, but everybody likes them. But I think significantly for the GI Joe Museum here are the talkers. And the talkers are important for us because they keep breaking. And we keep fixing them for people.
Oh yeah, all those talking toys in the '60s that had the little
And these
pull
are
string,
pull
like
tabs.
Woody the cowboy.
Right.
That's
And-
what he was modeled after.
And the idea is that the newer stuff coming out now is electronic. And these were not electronic. There's a tape in there, there's a stylus, there's a little speaker. And
It's crazy.
But you know what? It works pretty well. And this is the Air Force guy. And they said 8 different things. So they said 8 different things. Each service had their own sayings, and unfortunately, you know, they break very easily. So later on, they made the same ones, but electronically. So you can kind of just pull those, and they say whatever, just because it's electronic. They have the Navajo code talkers, and then again, weirdly enough, they had a whole, because we talked about the Soldiers of the World not being as popular as G.I. Joe, they had a whole bunch of heads left over. So they just threw the heads on talkers.
Oh, wow.
So you have kind of a foreign talker with an American uniform, but says G.I. Joe U.S. Army.
Yeah, it's kind of like you know, they're cousins or something. So he looks a little different.
And there's no scar on this guy. There's a scar on that guy.
Yeah, that was another thing. Yeah, the G.I. Joe scar was a trademark thing, but the foreign ones didn't have it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one time I was fixing a G.I. Joe talker, and the guy didn't tell me, and I couldn't understand what the G.I. Joe was saying. And I realized through my brief experience in high school with taking French that he was talking in French. So it was a Canadian G.I. Joe talking in French.
Oh, wow.
And so I texted the guy. I said, "You didn't tell me he was talking in French." And he goes, "Oh, I forgot to tell you that," because I was trying to, you know, fix the French out of him, and I don't understand a thing he said.
It's like, what's wrong with this
Then
thing?
I realized, oh my God, he's talking French. And they have it in Spanish because Spain made a G.I. Joe called Guyperman in Mexico. I'm presuming that's Spanish also. They had G.I. Joe there. In Italy too, but I'm not sure what language they spoke.
Oh, wow.
But those are the guys that we fixed the most.
Yeah.
And then we kind of want this area just kind of a celebration of the astronauts, because they had a pretty reasonable collection of spacemen from the 60s. But there's 2. They have the one that has a blue interior and one that has a glow-in-the-dark interior.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. Yeah, look at the glow-in-the-dark kind.
And I don't know how well it's going to work, but you can kind of see this glowing in the dark.
It's glowing a little bit. Yeah.
But what happened in 1969 is that Vietnam happened, and parents were kind of shying away from buying toys of war. And so G.I. Joe said, or Hasbro said, "Hey, let's get out of the army business or the military business and make it adventures." So they changed the whole kind of concept to from military to adventures with G.I. Joe, and they gave him all these incredible adventures using a lot of the old equipment.
That's
coming
really
up with new stuff. And so they had the Polar Explorers, the Aquanaut instead of the Navy guy, and so they have all these that were really, these are very collectible because they're really interesting.
Yeah, I remember seeing this, and it had the little
and that came out of the
it's like a mine detector.
Came out of the Marine mine detector. You know, from from 67.
And then you wave it over it, and it would buzz or something. It would make a noise.
And people were always kind of criticizing, you know, they had the spaceman, you know, on the moon without any gloves on. So I thought
that's true. Yeah. Oh, that reminds me too. The famous G.I. Joe hand. They can't hold anything.
Yeah.
It's like, why did they? It looks like he's supposed to have a trigger finger, but it's hard plastic. It doesn't work.
The guns that they originally made, you know, they hold on to the guns pretty well.
I mean,
nothing else.
He's holding on to that.
Yeah, I mean, everything else falls out. And that's why, as you will see in a moment, in the 70s, they made the Kung Fu grip. Or 74, I'm sorry, made the Kung Fu grip.
Those were fun. I actually had the Fantastic Free Fall, and you could throw them and get stuck on the roof and stuff. And
I mean, they were kind of rudimentary.
It worked pretty good. Yeah, the little pack popped open. That was a cool set.
Yeah, we decided to put all the winter guys together. That's breaking protocol. So, but we wanted to do a diorama with a nice mural on it, and there was enough of them to.
Oh yeah, these
put
guys
them
are
in.
ready to go. So they have skis and then they have snowshoes,
Yeah.
depending on the set. And I'm from Louisiana, so it's like we weren't interested in anything to do with snow because we never saw it. But these are cool. I always like the like fur
Yeah,
Parker.
but it was pretty cool.
Oh, man.
Cool outfit.
And look at him,
Yeah, he was supposed to be an abominable snowman.
abominable pygmy snowman. He's so small. It's like the husky's as big as him.
Yeah, but they had a gorilla in a previous. It was called the Search for the Pygmy Gorilla,
Yeah.
and so they just used the same one, just painted him white. So they have technically
Well, yeah.
a pygmy abominable snowman.
Oh, I just saw the plastic dynamite
Yeah,
explosive. Those fuses would break off.
hard to find with nice fuses. So that's why that's on display there.
We'll hear a lot of the GI Joe problems. It's like
like the
stuff like that would break.
The Frogman there, getting an outfit that is clean. First of all, is impossible almost.
Mhm.
It's impossible to clean it, but if they have it, at least it's nice and supple.
Yeah.
That's always a positive, because a lot of times they'll just get hard or they'll melt.
I've seen stuff melted and. Because my dad was in the Navy, we had the black suit that's like this guy has, but we played with it all the time in the water and stuff. So
there's so many.
all of their joints were they're riveted, so they would rust and stuff like that. And you pick up your GI Joe and you could hear water like sloshing around inside him and stuff.
There's so much water damage on GI Joes that we try to repair. We don't repair the rivets, but there's elastic holding the arms and legs together,
Right.
and that gets rusted out because there's metal parts to them, and they just fall apart.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, the kids were pretty brutal.
Yeah.
With these GI Joes.
But then, this is 1960. The 1960s in general, mid 1960s, and look how many are still around.
It's, 60 plus years old, and there's no reason they were going to break. I mean, the way they were made.
Yeah.
And the way they were played with, there's still millions of them out there. I don't think I've ever seen a number on the amount and the number of GI Joes.
Yeah, GI Joe survivors.
But there's a bunch out there.
And a lot of the kids like me are still around who used to play with.
So in the 70s, they made GI Joes now with lifelike hair. And that was and they renamed it, rather than the Adventures of G.I. Joe, they called them the Adventure Team. And again, away from military, there's the pygmy gorilla.
The pygmy abominable
and
gorilla.
And they gave them all sorts of non-military adventures, like Desert Patrol, and Fatal Troubleshooter, and mummies, and helicopters, and training centers. So there was a bunch of stuff. And they gave them dozens of different outfits to do.
Oh yeah, I remember they were packaged on the little cards too.
Yeah.
Just like the old stuff. So they could load them up on the store racks.
Absolutely. And they started getting a little fancier. Now again, you'll notice in 74 they went from the regular G.I. Joe grip to the Kung Fu grip. Which allowed these guys to, number one, grip things better, but it also, unfortunately, allowed them to break a lot easier. So the fingers come off.
Oh, God.
And then in 75, they changed the body from what they typically had to what they call a muscle body. Mm-hmm. And muscle body guys are pretty rare because they just didn't make that many of them. And then they made a muscle body Eagle Eye, which their eyes go back and forth. I mean, it's not a big deal, but again, it's 1970. And then they made the muscle body that talked. So this is a pretty rare guy.
Oh yeah.
So that was the sequence, and then 76 things kind of fell apart and they stopped really making G.I. Joes. But they also did their version of $6 Million Man. Hasbro tried to get the rights to $6 Million Man. They couldn't, so they made their own $6 Million Man, called him Mike Power, and they gave him a bionic arm and a leg and an eye and gave him all this stuff. It wasn't terribly popular, but they did that.
He came with his own treadmill.
Yeah, he had a little treadmill.
There's a lot of real people have treadmills and don't use them. He's actually on his.
Yeah, they were monitoring him. He hadn't moved recently, but we're watching. And then they made this bizarre, and I don't know the whole history of this Bullet Man.
Yeah.
So he's just like the Muscle Body guys, but they gave him silver arms and this kind of weird helmet. So I figured how to get him.
Superhero uniform, yeah.
But,
where the boots are like molded on part of his feet or his legs, or are they rubber or something? Looks like they're part of the.
They have to come off. I don't remember actually.
Wow,
but
I
don't think they would have done that. But I don't know. I don't remember.
Bullet Man. I remember when Bullet Man came out, and we promptly denied getting one.
And then unfortunately, also in '75, they really dumbed the whole thing down and made these guys called the Defenders.
Oh God, yeah.
And they went back to like 5 or 6 movable joints. They just tried to put these out as cheap as they can. But they also gave them these enemies called the I don't even remember what they're called.
I used to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like caveman guys, but and there was like a leader. They had different colored armor or something, and But I remember, I think the same year or right around that time, Penny's came out with one, and I think it was called just Ombre or something like that, and he was pretty much the same kind of body. He went back to the Barbie style articulation, and I just remember the ad in the catalog. It said Ombre means man. And for all those people who didn't speak Spanish, you could figure it out, and then of course I'm gonna go get one now. But
so this is
golly, these are cool.
Let's see if we can sort this out.
And the Seawolf sub, that's awesome.
Yeah, they're called the Intruders.
The Intruders. Oh yeah, there he is.
Check that out. But they're also, in the '70s they had some pretty fancy kits like the Flying Space Adventure, which is really kind of difficult to find. The Black Widow Rendezvous, Skydive to Danger, which had a big web and a really nasty looking spider. I mean, nasty, not bad looking, it was just cheaply made. They also had this cool little submarine called the Seawolf. So they had all those.
Yeah, and that would actually go in the water, and they had like a little tube or something to it where you could make it bubble and stuff. There's a hidden missile discovery
one. So
one.
they made, they had a hidden missile one from '69. So they just recycled all the parts. And the same thing with the Shark Surprise. They recycled a lot of things from the old G.I. Joes. But these are some other guys that we put together just to kind of have with the spare parts that we've had.
Yeah. Well, there he is, checking out the maps and everything, getting ready to go. They had the headsets. And this was cool because they had this little command center up here. Yep. But if you had to get out real fast, it was like on a pole, so you would slide down and fly out the door back there. That would open up. And all the equipment, all the hangers and stuff, and hooks to hang everything on.
And just like anything, while the kits are cool, the boxes are hard to find. Everybody threw the boxes away. So any box you find is always kind of a treasure.
Yeah,
We've
definitely.
Had more than one box that had been scrawled upon with the magic marker that said Christmas lights on them. They figured after they got the G.I. Joe, it was Christmas time, so they just threw the lights in the box.
That's it. That's a good sized box too. This one right here.
A lot of Christmas lights.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. This is kind of behind the scenes. This is where the repairs take place and stuff like that.
We keep as many spare parts as we can.
Yeah.
Every so often when we get too many spare parts, I put them on eBay, and then I'm looking for the parts that I gave away. So.
Oh man, there's all kinds of vehicles. The Adventure Team mobile, was it the mobile headquarters? Mobile support vehicle, yeah. That was awesome, that thing. That was a major deal.
Yeah. Together. We try to put them all together.
This is the decapitated Joes and the body part Joes, and you're not going to try to put that Ewok head on one of them, are you?
No. No, we try to stick to be as accurate as we can.
Yeah, no Franken Joes. And there's the tools of the trade there. Working with all those little springs, and they said there's an elastic that goes holds the arms on, and
these are the elastics. You can see this one's really rusted out, and but you know, after 60 years they're still good. So they got nice elastics, and try to keep as many parts as we can to. If we need to put something together or somebody's looking for something. The parts are hard to find. You know, and this guy's ready to. Yeah, that guy needs some work.
Getting close.
Yeah, but.
Oh, that's cool. And there's even some uniform parts, a few extras.
Yep. So I learned to do a lot more sewing than I ever thought I would need to. They're indestructible.
These are they're going to be here long after we're gone.
Yeah.
And it's still pliable and everything.
Yeah, I mean they're just
swim fins.
And these belts.
Oh yeah, the deep sea diver belts. Yeah.
They're just.
And those were cool, isn't it? It's like they had the real metal weights on them and everything.
I've never figured out if they're really lead or not.
I always wondered about that.
Yeah. I mean, if they are, it's a real problem. Because G.I. Joe kids lost.
It's heavy.
Points.
They are heavy. Like they could be lead. And I've seen some of those where they're the shoe parts that are bent and stuff. And I was like, what had happened to that to bend that thing? Yeah, because they're made to last, obviously.
So these obviously continue to accumulate.
Yeah.
And,
oh God.
And then they have the ponchos that got really. Some of them are really hard. Some of them are still soft.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they were actually like made out of the real material, so they were waterproof. Oh God.
It's really good shape, but you can't really open it.
Yeah. You have to.
So you just got to kind of deal with what you got.
Oh, this is a fun room. This is a playroom.
Yeah. And fortunately, some folks, this person from Houston, Greg Kaufman, sent me 4 boxes of G.I. Joe stuff that he had in his attic. And they were all stuff he got. And so we scattered some of the parts around, you know, in the museum, but these are the parts that are the equipment and G.I. Joes that he sent us. And the thing I really like about this is he sent us a picture of him playing with it at Christmas.
Oh, cool.
And that's the Jeep that he was playing with.
Oh wow.
So I always like that, you know, when you. And the other thing that's interesting, it's always neat to read what kids wrote on their what rank they used, you know, in Colonel, Sergeant, Corporal. So this guy Greg went with Colonel. But we do appreciate it because that was a lot of G.I. Joe stuff that he sent us.
Wow.
And so that was nice. I always want to give him props for that. But this, because this building is so large, we wanted to put all our dioramas in here, which we tried to crowd in the other building, but moved over to here. So we have dioramas for the Navy and the Marines over here. And the other thing we do is kind of show how accurate the equipment is that G.I. Joe made. So we have a stretcher, a duffel bag, and a fire extinguisher, and that's exactly look exactly the way they did. So we thought that was kind of neat to show that. And then because we started doing that, people just kind of dumped off all the military stuff with us. Some things that are rocket. The ammunition came in, some gas cans, you know, stuff. a hat
God.
from the Army Air Force. You know, not
Oh, yeah.
necessarily GI Joe stuff, but you know, they sent it to us. They gave it to us, so we were trying to explain.
Yeah.
And now this one is the most costly diorama because we had to get more Japanese
Yeah.
in there, and those guys are pretty pricey. But we didn't need to have a Marine one, so we threw the Australian in there because you know they were down in the Pacific
Well, yeah.
also.
And this is still mostly World War II era,
Yeah.
which is interesting with Vietnam War coming up right behind it
Yeah.
and everything changing.
So we have what we call our D-Day diorama. It's about almost 20 feet long, probably 17. It was in the other shop and it was smaller, so we extended it out and put it in here. And I think we have about 50 G.I. Joes in this. We have a total of almost 350 in the museum, but there's about 50 of them in here. And this incorporates all Hasbro G.I. Joes along with vehicles, such as the amphibious duck, the tank, the personnel carrier, the Jeep, the motorcycle. And they weren't necessarily, these were not made by Hasbro, but they were licensed by Hasbro to a company called Irwin. And Irwin made all these. This big howitzer here is a Hasbro item, but it was not made in the 60s or 70s. It came out in the 90s. But
Yeah, I
it looked
remember.
appropriate to put it here. So
Yeah, that was like, and it's just unusual for anything that big to be made by a company like Hasbro
Yeah.
these days. They have a few different toy lines that have big sets or one big item, but for a long time they didn't fool with stuff like that. I mean, you look at all the detail on it and everything, and that was an expensive thing to make, much less to buy. So
and we have our muralist who always paints the murals, which adds so much to the diorama.
Oh yeah, we're at eye level, so we can see what they see. And some of these I've never seen before. I've seen the armored car, but I don't think I've ever seen the duck
Again,
in
not-
person.
Not as common.
Yeah.
And
And I've
again,
seen
their
the
plastic
tank.
is all the duck and the amphibious duck and the armored personnel are very brittle,
Mm-hmm.
so they also break very easily. The tank is pretty stout, so that survives pretty well.
Yeah. Yep, there they are. It's like Private Ryan going up.
And we tried to gather together as many Germans as we can to have them as going up against the GI Joes.
Now this one, well, it's got a G.I. Joe logo. This is a
Yep.
Irwin.
This is also an Irwin. It's a German staff car,
Oh yeah.
and then the motorcycle is Irwin also.
Yep.
And it came with interchangeable stickers, so you can make that.
Oh,
you can
okay.
Make it a British Jeep or an American Jeep.
And that's one of the things that a lot of people is like, oh well, my Jeep, it's all broken up and everything. You can use it to make a diorama like this.
Sure.
So,
Or use it
and
for
it's
parts
appropriate.
for
It
a bigger
works.
one,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, use it for parts, save the wheels and the axles and pieces like that, and you know, make one out of two and stuff like that. Oh, this is cool. Yeah. Look, the guy hanging out of the window and.
And don't forget the parachutes coming in.
Yeah, he's about to land on the roof. Oh, this is neat. And the background, the mural just adds to it so much.
Yeah, we were satisfied without the mural, and we thought it was really cool. But then my daughter does all the murals, and when she did the mural, it was like, wow, it's just like, really, I couldn't believe what it looked like before.
This is really cool, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the jet.
Yeah.
Man, he just barely fits in.
Well, yeah, it's not to scale, as they say.
Wow.
But that was called the Panther jet, or the Jet Panther. I didn't realize it was actually a Navy jet until I bought it, but I still call this the Air Force one, even though they're on a Navy carrier.
Yeah, yeah.
And, so we put as many Air Force folks in here as we could with the crash crew truck, which also was a rare item. And the interesting thing about the backdrop is I just ordered that on Amazon because it was an aircraft carrier.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't look at it closely. I actually thought it was Japanese because it looks like it has a Japanese flag on it. So I didn't pay much attention to it. I put it up, took pictures of it, put it on Facebook, and I got an email or a Facebook response from a guy that said, "Hey, thanks for showing our aircraft carrier." And it was a G.I. Joe fan that's stationed on the George H.W. Bush.
Oh, that's
the George H.W. Bush.
Oh, wow, yes, 77.
So he took a picture of himself with the conning tower behind him.
Wow.
And said, thanks for showing us. So I had no idea what I was doing. So it's the George H.W. Bush.
Shore leave. Look at the chairs knocked over and everything. That's the thing.
Then I came into 6 or 7 Marine uniforms. I didn't know what the heck to do with them because, unfortunately, in a collecting world, nobody really collects the Marine uniforms because there's so many that were made.
Yeah, there's a few little guys snuck in, but in the cool
not a fan
display.
But they're part of the Hasbro story.
Yeah.
And this area here is all the reproductions and G.I. Joes in the 90s and 2000s that they made. So we figured they probably needed a place to be displayed.
Very cool. And just a miscellaneous assortment of guys back here.
And they changed the faces.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that's that first guy there was John F. Kennedy from PT 109.
Yep.
And then they came out in the 90s and 2000s with famous people. G.I. Joes. They actually had Bob Hope as one of them.
I got a Bob Hope. I thought that was hilarious. It was like, yeah. And it was neat because it tells the story about what was going on. It's like Bob Hope was an entertainer that actually was as involved as stuff as the regular G.I. Joes, the regular GIs and stuff. Stay tuned. The Look Dat Road Trip Adventure for 2022 is continuing with the next episode.